Hey there and welcome. I'm so glad you could join me today. This is Laura Lynn with Keep Inking Up. I'm an independent demonstrator for Stampin' Up! In San Antonio, Texas. And today I wanted to share 2 unique ways to really step up your die cuts. And you can use these tips on any die cuts that you have. For these examples, I am going to be using the Spotlight on Nature dies. I've already taken them out to use them. This is a great set of dies. You can see there's quite a few of the different circles with different kind of edging around the perimeter. It is the Spotlight on Nature bundle. You do not have to purchase the bundle, though. You can get the stamp set or the dies separately, and I highly, highly, highly recommend the dies. They're my favorite. The stamp set is lovely, don't get me wrong, but the dies are what is really awesome about this bundle. So I'm going to put this aside. I've already done some die cutting ahead of time to speed things along. So this is one of the die cuts from the Spotlight on Nature dies. This is the die that I used. But the tip that I'm going to do to step this up a notch is I'm going to place the die back in. So when you do this, you can just do it as soon as you cut it. So anyway, I just kind of slid it back into place. It kind of locked into place. I need to grab some grid paper because I'm going to do some ink blending. So I'm going to put that die, do some ink blending. So I'm going to put that die back in there and put that on my scratch paper, and I'm going to bring in a blending brush and my Summer Splash ink. You can do this with any ink that you have. I'm going to load up my blending brush with some ink. As always, I'm going to start off on my scratch paper. Oops, came out of place. It doesn't really matter as long as it's somewhat locked in there. Let's see if we can hold on to it. And now I'm going to just bring the ink right on into the die cut. I'm going to keep adding some ink, and I'm going to go around the whole perimeter. This can get a little messy, and you can do as much ink or as little ink as you want. You can do the whole die shape, or you can just do the perimeter. I'm just going to focus on the perimeter for right now, just so I can show you what it'll look like. Oh, see, I didn't go off my paper there, so now I've got that blob, but we'll fix that. I'll just add a bit more ink. I'll just go in a little bit further. It just shows you how important it is to start on your scratch paper and come back on it, but that's okay. We've kind of minimized that now. So now I'm going to build up that color all around the perimeter of my die cut. And like I said, you can do this with any die cut shape you have. It doesn't have to be circles. If you have some die cuts that are label shapes, you can certainly do that with those shapes. And I'll show you some examples in a little bit with some different shapes. It doesn't have to be circles. I just happen to choose these because these are my favorite dies at the moment. The Spotlight on Nature dies are my absolute favorite dies at the moment. So I think that looks good. And we'll just sort us a little bit in the middle. But here comes the reveal. When you remove the die, check that out. Isn't that gorgeous? It's just a way to step it up so it looks like you kind of have layers on there. So let me show you. And you can just run this die underwater because it's water-based ink. You can clean it up really well. So let me show you some card samples. Here's a card where I use the Spotlight on Nature stamp set with it, and I use a lighter blue color, but you can see how it's just a really soft background, and I use the exposed brick 3D embossing folder in the back there. Isn't that a beautiful card? I just love it. It just steps it up a little bit, having that two-tone on that circle layer. I think it's the same, yeah, it's the same exact die cut. And I just colored and cut out the image from the Spotlight on Nature stamp set. So like I said, the stamp set is gorgeous as well, but the dies are really fabulous. There's another circle die set that we have is the, I think it's called the Everyday Shapes. And so that's the one that I use on this card. Again, I just did the edges a little bit, left it light in the center where I would stamp my sentiment. And then I actually even used some linen thread weaving through the holes that were in that particular die. So that is another example of that. So that's the first way that I wanted to show you how to step up these dies. Let me get this cleaned up and put out of the way so I can show you the next way to step up these circles. Get this out of the way. Okay, so this time I have another die from the same Spotlight on Nature dies. So I'm going to go ahead and put, again, I'm going to slide the die back in. Now this time, I don't need this paper anymore. I'm going to use my Pierce mat, Stampin' Pierce mat. I'm going to lay it down. On this one, I laid the die with a die cut face up, and I added ink on the top of the die cut. On this one, we're going to work on the back side. So I have the die in there, but I have the die upside down on my Pierce mat. And then I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool with the stylus end. If you don't have a Take Your Pick tool, you really need to have one. There are so many attachments that we have, and one is the one is the stylus end. So I'm going to again make sure that this is in here, and then I'm going to find the ridge of the die cut below, and I'm going to just run my stylus along that ridge. And again, you can do this with any shaped die that you have. This works especially well for label dies, especially if they're intricate shapes. This is great to use. And you want to press pretty hard. That's why it's important to have this Pierce mat below, because you're trying to get the impact of this stylus. So I'm going to go around and around quite a few times. Now when we turn it over and we lift it up, hopefully you can see that you have that ridge on there. So that just adds another detail to really punch up your projects. And again, you can use this on any die. Let me show you some samples of that. So here's one where I stamped the sentiment on the inside, but you can see, hopefully you can see, I don't know how well you can see it, but you can see that ridge on there. But it did the exact same thing, just in a smaller circle from that same set of dies. Here's another one that I've shared before. This used the Everyday Labels, not everyday Details dies. So again, I don't know if you can see very well, but there's the detail around the perimeter of that rectangle. So again, it just is a way to step this up a little bit. And then here is another one. This is a gorgeous card. I love this card. I used that same technique on this label for the happy birthday. So hopefully you can see that. It's very subtle, but it's just enough to just punch up your dies just a little bit. So anyway, I hope that you like these two ways to step up your dies. Again, you can use absolutely any die sets that you have in your collection. Add some ink, add some dimension using your stylus. Go ahead and have a try at it. Thank you again so much for joining me. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.